Okay. Okay, we're back, and you're not supposed to see this. Uh, we're back. Hello. We're just gonna do a quick restart. We had technical issues. I haven't played in a while. It's been about a month, but our episodes are spaced, so it's only like 2 episodes that we missed. I haven't played much Destiny, but I did go through uh, Grasp of Avarice lore. Please go check out Mylan Games' video. We will post a link in the description. And he did a fantastic job catching me up because I haven't had enough time to really get back into it. Rhino did an amazing thing with Armory Defined on Twitter, going through all the new stuff and their relation to other games. And I called him a Bungie scholar, and then he was talking himself down as not being a Bungie scholar. And now we're back. That's
Yeah,
a
so
1 minute rundown.
so yeah, I'm not a Bungie scholar. I've been playing Bungie games for a very long time, but I'm in like the bottom 10% of Bungie scholars, I'm imagining. There are people out there that know so much lore about all of the other Bungie games, and I was basically just trying to say if you're wanting to know about Bungie's history and their rich storytelling
Hmm.
in gaming. You can go look it up, and there are people out there that have compiled threads of lore around Myth, Oni, Halo, even Destiny now, obviously. That's what we're trying to do. But there is like a little twist to that. So just knowing that, going back on a lot of those games, and all I was trying to drill down as a point was the past games that they did this great job of leaving you wanting more because they never really closed them out as far as story goes. They gave you this rich story, this universe, and all of the stuff that went with it, but um, they weren't like 100% fleshed out.
Hmm.
So anyway, as far as Halo goes, it's been going on and on and on. As you know, half of Bungie's studio stayed and created 343. They're
Hmm.
still over there making Halo to this day, and Halo's story has gotten even more elaborate over the years. But you know, that isn't to say that Bungie didn't have everything to do with that at the
Hmm.
beginning. And so here we are in Destiny. Destiny is like Bungie's. So I would say it's like their opus. it's it's their game that has been, basically created out of all of those other past games. And what's
Hmm.
nice and what's neat about what we're seeing now in this anniversary, which is a celebration of all the past games and what's to come in the future, which I think that we're seeing some stuff we just don't know it yet.
Hmm.
Uh, but what's nice and neat about that is that they've kind of given us an avenue to explore all the multiverse, right?
They call it the Paraverse
Yeah, the
for
Paraverse.
the Bungie uh X IP in the terms of like Halo. Uh yeah, Paraverse.
Yeah, Paraverse, and it's funny because like it's very popular right now in our culture is this idea of metaverses, and the word meta comes up like constantly now.
Hmm.
What I used to say, like okay, so it's funny because in the '90s, if you're an old guy like me, in the '90s and early 2000s, everybody kept saying the word extreme. So like everything was extreme. Drink your Mountain Dew, extreme
Yeah.
sports, X Games, X this, everything's an X, right?
Yeah.
And so what I'm starting to see is now everything's meta. Like it's
That's
just meta. This is meta, that's meta, everything's meta. I mean
Everything has to be interconnected, and
yeah,
nothing can exist on its own. It has to be a part of this greater thing.
it's funny because pop there's so many pop references that just it's like everybody out there latches onto a word or a phrase and it becomes the popular thing. Like when
Hmm.
Destiny first started, when D1 came out, everything was called Guardians.
Yeah.
Halo Guardians, Guardians of the Galaxy, Destiny's Guardians. Anyway, so here we are in the
The
metaverse,
Destiny
which is
Guardians is the Korean version of the game.
that's true. Yeah, which that's a whole nother thing. So okay, so Armory Defined. I did was I don't want to go into like a long, you know, elaborate explanation for every game they've ever created.
Mm-hmm.
But I kind of pulled out what was like the meat and potatoes. So we'll just skip the veggies. But
Nice.
so um Bungie's 30th anniversary, they brought in a bunch of items, weapons. And
Mm-hmm.
what's cool about each one of these is lore wise, some of them have really kind of given you a little bit of a window. It's funny because they're Destiny lore, but what they're saying in the lore has to do with the previous games that they came from, and those are hints. They're kind of telling you in the lore, like, this is a Halo gun or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So when I made this, we didn't have it, they weren't in the game per se, exactly like in the game. These were, I defined these before we had the dump.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, the the first one I did was,
So we're
there's an
gonna follow the thread, right? Because that's the
yeah,
order I have it in. All right.
yeah, I think that's the best way. It just I didn't do these in any particular order.
Yeah.
I just did them in like, oh, that's neat. Let's go on.
Yeah, just in case if you did it in if you were gonna read it off in a different order, just let me know because I have them all queued up to go on screen
No,
screen, but
yeah,
otherwise
cool.
I can just handle it like this.
Okay, all right. So the first one I did was a Xenophage Ornament.
Mm-hmm.
Xenophage, the big heavy machine gun. It's the name of the ornament is "You Think You're Big Time." And at first, I mean, I recognized the marathon logo on the tip of the machine gun,
Mm-hmm.
which stood out. But then it really hit me because there's a there's an iconic like marathon poster game, whatever picture, and it's showing the marathon cyborg marathon man. He's holding this huge like rail machine gun type of weapon. Anyway, this overall theme with the hazard drawing the stripes and all that in the red and the yellow is from that. So the color scheme is from that picture, but you think your big time is a marathon achievement. And so the achievement is you win a multiplayer game with at least 4 players in every map in the Total Carnage Net map pack, which is like their little expansion they had for the marathon game. Um, But so what's funny is you'll see this going on if you know anything about Marathon or Halo or whatever. You'll see that the tie-ins visually to the gun are that black and yellow hazard caution striping.
Like
Uh,
construction worker.
yeah, the construction worker.
I don't know why it's like gotta just be like the child in me, but whenever I see things like that, I'm like, oh, that's my favorite. That's the best look it could ever have.
Makes me think of playing with Tonka toys and like little metal trucks.
And you know what? I wish they really doubled down because if you don't know, it's too late now. But in the Dawning, there's a Xenophage ornament where when you reload the gun, you can
Yeah,
see the Omar bug inside, and on the Dawning ornament, the Omar bug gets like a little elf hat. And I wish they doubled down on that, and every one they gave it something
give it a
else
different hat. Yeah, it would
because
have been great.
they
Like
have
this one could have had a hard hat.
yeah, they could have had a hard hat, and they have the one that makes it look almost like Tex Mechanica. They could have given it a
Yeah,
Stetson. Like every single
yeah.
Omar bug should have its own hat for every ornament. I mean, it's fine that they don't, but
I know you're right. That
it
would
would
have
be
been
so
great.
hilarious.
Give it a little
I'd have to get
cowboy
it every
hat on.
time.
Yeah, and so it's very multi-layered. This game is so what we're seeing right now because of Zur is we're seeing like a window into weapons and themes and ornaments that come from the Paraverse.
Hmm.
Because if you know what a Paraverse is, a multiverse, that's just basically alternate timelines that are running in parallel with your own that you're on right now, and it's kind of like a bunch of streams that somehow Zur in his little pocket eternity realm can cross streams of multiverses and pull from them. Not really like
Well, it's not
I don't
Zur
want to.
who's doing it, right? It's the Star Horse.
Yeah, it's the Star Horse. Sorry, Zur is basically just the
His will is not
the-
his own, and now it's not even the
yeah.
Nines.
he's like a homunculus or whatever you
Yeah.
call it. He's just a vessel.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so Star Wars. Rainbow Dash is pulling all of these weapons from alternate timelines and just like they're our reward or whatever they are. Um, so sorry, long-winded explanation for the one ornament. Yeah, so Bungie. It's funny because Bungie's carried this like little construction theme throughout a lot of their games.
Mm-hmm.
The little warning triangles have popped up in like every single game they've ever had, and I mean, heck, even the cones in Halo 3, if you shot them just right, they could ping pong off of walls and kill you. And so, like, we've had humorous videos of what they would refer to as death cones, montages of cones being, wept across the map and killing people.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so anyway, it's nice that they lean into that. Like they don't forget their past. Um, the next one was a malfeasance ornament.
Okay.
It's called Pink Mist. And so if you look at it at first, there's nothing that really stands out about it that's going to give you kind of a clue as to what that means. And also ornaments, they don't have lore. So, but this Pink Mist, and I knew this right off the bat because my wife used to get this achievement all the time in Halo.
Uh-huh.
But the Pink Mist is from Halo 3. It's an achievement where it's called Fear the Pink Mist. So that refers to the Needler gun in Halo, which
Okay.
the Needler gun is a gun that has a bunch of like crystal needles in the top of it. I'm trying to explain it if you don't play Halo. It's a bunch of crystal needles in the top of the gun, and as you shoot them, it takes almost all of them to stack onto the enemy you're shooting, and then they'll explode, giving you an insta kill. But you got to hit the enemy with all the needles.
Oh, just like malfeasance.
Yes.
Yeah, that's clever.
Yeah. So I thought that was very funny because you can see what they're trying to do. It's pretty neat that they kind of they think about these things. It's not just let's give it a skin, go on, you know. So the Pink Mist, it's a kill 5 enemies with your Needler in a ranked free for all playlist or in campaign. So when you're playing, if you kill 5 enemies, which is kind of hard because you only have so much ammo and so much time in between kills, and before it's no longer a multi kill or
Mm-hmm.
killing 5 enemies. But pretty neat. So if you love the Needler, you'd know that one.
Can I ask you something?
Yeah,
Can you pull up the image of this one?
yeah,
Just
I'm
so
looking at
we're
it.
looking at the same thing. Is it blurry or does my eyesight really suck?
No, it's not blurry. That's how they intentionally made it.
No, but like did they intentionally make it with like a blur around the pink blue crystally bit?
If you zoom in on it, it's not really blurry. It just appears blurry when you're looking at it.
It's
It
like
has like,
it's like messing with
so I
me.
noticed in the game, it has like a glow effect, and this
Yeah,
snapshot
that's what
that
it
I
looks like.
used,
It looks
yeah,
like it's a glow that's not like pulsing.
yeah, that's what it's doing.
Okay.
Yeah. So, the Covenant. Well, the funny thing about the Needler is, it was created by Sheik, but the Needler in game has some kind of like the lore of the Needler in game has never been like completely explained until just this last week, which is funny. In Halo, they kind of fleshed out the lore about the gun. They tell you about how the needles come from a moon that was mined for this particular crystal, and there's not like enough really that goes behind that. But this gun, the Needler in Halo, didn't have to be like remanufactured for uh, UNSC forces to use. Like they could just basically go use the gun right off the bat. Every other Halo weapon that was from the enemy had to be kind of altered so that a human could use it.
Oh, I guess I never know. I mean, I only played like the first two Halos, but I guess I never noticed that. That's an interesting point.
Yeah. So like Master Chief can use every gun that he comes up against. That's what makes him a Master Chief. He's a
Hmm.
master
Hmm.
weapons user. But anyway, uh, so the Needler, the the needles, the blamite or whatever it's called, the crystals, they stack and explode, and they create an effect called the pink mist.
Cool. 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 Cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. yeah. So it's, you know,
Yeah.
it's just funny. Um, so the next one was Hero of Ages. This one took a second because at the time I didn't have anything about it. But the Heroes of Ages, after every age of darkness, after every age of darkness, an age of light.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and so, I mean, right off the bat, we know the sword, just from looking at it, was the Myth sword. On the Myth game, so the Myth game is a Bungie game. On the Myth game, on all of the covers, they have this iconic sword.
Hmm.
And the sword is like a symbol of like the ultimate achievement in the game. So the Myth game plays upon this idea of forces of light and dark ruling the world successfully in a 1,000 year cycle, which repeats, and this goes on, and all of this happened before recorded history. So I mean, they're really, in a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away, basically.
Mm-hmm.
There's this game called Myth Game, and so each cycle, each 1,000 year cycle, climaxes in the arrival of the leveler, and then it starts a new age. So the leveler is like, the Armageddon weapon wielder, and he just
Yeah.
wipes the slate clean so that everybody can start over again.
The leveler goes by many names in many games.
Yeah. um. So that's what the little flavor text was alluding to. So at
Mm-hmm.
first, when you read the flavor text, you're like, "What does that mean? What is after every age of darkness and age of light?"
Mm-hmm.
Right? That's what they're referring to. Is Myth Game itself each cycle of darkness ending in a cycle of light? Blah blah blah. There you go.
Cool.
Myth Game is pretty cool if you're into those types of games. I would say go play it. I mean, I think you can get a lot of these games like Marathon. You can download the whole game online for free. There's
I tried to
a
play Marathon. It's just such a different generation of video game that it's
it
hard for
is.
me to go to.
Yeah, I mean, and it's not like playing Galaga.
Yeah. Yeah. It's not an arcade game either,
Yeah,
which
it's
is
not
like
like playing
easy to jump into.
Pac-Man. Yeah.
Oh god.
Yeah, you gotta like you gotta invest some time into it.
Okay.
Okay, this one was my favorite one at the time. Uh, so everybody, if you're on social media, you know that they put the swords from Halo into Destiny, and they split them in half.
Mhm.
And so the sword over the years from Halo has gotten many different iterations and aesthetic changes, and they've explained it as the swords are different for different Covenant wielders. So like Sangheili is where the elites in Halo come from, and they're a race of they're enemies, but they're also friends. So they're frenemies because over the years they've become like our allies in certain games. But anyway, there's different factions of them. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So the swords, they're either like blue in color or purple in color or red now, because in Halo we have,
Is there
you
a
know,
red? Oh, okay.
yeah, in Halo we now have an enemy that's an elite that joined the Banished, which is like the outlaw faction, and they have
Oh,
red
okay.
stuff.
So
Everything they have is red.
this is 343 Halo, not Bungie Halo, that
Correct.
established a red sword. Okay.
Yeah. And so Bungie's swords have been like shades of blue and purple,
Mhm.
and so like different shades of that. And anyway, so you got one sword called the Other Half, and the flavor text is, "If only there was a way to combine them." And then the other sword is Half Truths, and the flavor text is, "A fine blade, but it seems like it's missing something." And so if you lay the two swords on top of each other, you have a complete Halo sword.
And I predicted this so many years ago.
Yes, you did. So, this is obviously the Halo game Energy Swords. It's a weapons of the Sangheili. It's considered a weapon of nobility
Mhm.
since its creation in one of the ages of discovery. they're leaning into that. So like when Bungie creates these games, they pull from some of their last stuff. So even in Halo, they were pulling from like Myth and Marathon, right?
Hmm.
So and now we're in Destiny, pulling from Halo that pulls from Marathon and that pulls from Myth and that pulls from who knows what else. So yeah, so Halo Swords. This one is probably everybody else's favorite. It's called the Forerunner.
Hmm.
It's the exotic hand cannon that we got, and
This is
we
a sidearm, I thought.
yeah, it's a sidearm. Sorry,
Oh, okay.
it's the Forerunner. It's a really cool gun aesthetically. It's neat.
Yeah, it
So
is a very nice looking gun.
yeah, the lore on this gun is really cool too because it's a discussion between the gunsmith and Shax, and they're
Hmm.
basically saying they're dropping hints like, "Where does this gun come from? What are you talking about? Oh, it must have belonged to somebody really big. This looks like basically it's a proto hand cannon. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But this is be a sidearm for somebody really large." And Shax is like, "Oh, must have been a Titan, of course, right?"
Yeah,
And
we're gonna talk about Shaq's at the end of this. It's not something that you have, but it's something that I have.
okay.
So Shaq saying like, "Oh, must be for someone really large." I know your secret, Shaqs. I know it.
So the Forerunner, like okay, so Halo, everybody in Halo that's, of the human race are considered Forerunners. So it's funny because real quick, in Halo, the Halo ring worlds are they were left behind by the Forerunners. And the
Hmm.
Forerunners were a race of people that collected all of the sentient beings within the galaxy and they basically put them on their version of a Noah's Ark. They saved all of the species in the galaxy, put them on a big ark, and they left them there so that they could activate the ring worlds, which were actually a weapon which annihilated all sentient life within the galaxy. And the reason they did that is because they had an enemy that they could not kill called the Flood.
Spoilers for Halo.
Well, I mean, the game has been out long enough, dude. If you don't know, that's that's
I
the
mean,
story of
this was the
Halo.
most compelling reason for me to actually play Halo again. So, just saying. That was that I was like, man, this they should make this into like a game or something.
So it's funny because when you first start playing Halo and back in the day, all of that was mystery. Like none of that was explained to you.
Hmm.
As you're playing the game, it's like, oh my god, what? And so you're realizing this ring world that it mysteriously is hanging out there in the galaxy is actually a weapon, and it can be activated to kill everything in the you know galaxy or whatever. So the Flood, they're like they're like zombie.
Hmm. Hmm.
They're like aliens meets zombies. If you're familiar with the aliens movies or books,
Man.
they infect humans or anything and they take over their body and make them an alien. So same thing happens with Flood. It's just a little bit more grotesque. There's these little um, gross, you know, enemies that will latch onto whatever's living and take them over and then just make them run around like zombies. And so in Halo, the Forerunners that were here before everybody else was had to get rid of the Flood. And so the way they got rid of the Flood was making this huge weapon called the Halo Array, and it wiped them all out. But as we know, playing the game, it didn't really get rid of all of them.
So so I have a question now about Halo actually cuz
Yep.
I can't just like leave this. So basically the Forerunners were like we're going to Noah's Ark the universe and then humans were like we're going to fuck that up. Is that what happens?
No, so it already happened, and then
Oh, okay, okay.
it happened way before,
Gotcha, gotcha,
and you
gotcha.
just find out that this is why everything is the way it is, and you're playing through the game, and so you go onto these Forerunner constructs, is what they call them, and there are these sentient AIs, which are like robots basically with with great minds, and
Hmm.
I'm dumbing it down, like severely dumbing it down. But basically, the the Noah's Ark aspect of it shows you why there are certain enemy races within your game. So you have the elites,
Hmm.
the brutes, the grunts, the jackals, the prophets, which are the leaders of the covenant that made all of those guys go crazy and join together to fight humans. And
Hmm.
humans have a great military force, the UNSC, and Halo's Master Chief fighting against all of those bad guys.
Okay.
So,
And all that from this
or
gun.
yeah, so Forerunners refers to Master Chief because Master Chief is called Forerunner way later in the game when you realize that this had happened, and they basically refer to the hero of the game as Forerunner and the entire human race because they are descendants of the advanced alien species, aka Forerunners. So they're basically trying to
Oh.
explain human existence as being spawns of the Forerunners.
So it's kind of like reverse. Well, actually, I don't know if that's true. I'm not even going to say that.
Yeah, I don't even. And there's still a lot of mystery out there. But 343 Guilty Spark, which looks like the inside of a Destiny Ghost,
Hmm.
is this orb that floats around and he tries to manipulate people into doing what he wants them to do. And he has a quote where he calls Master Chief. He says, "You are the child of my makers. You are Forerunner." And so that's 343 Guilty Spark saying that.
So Matt Grundy in chat said they called Master Chief the Redeemer, not the Forerunner.
The Redeemer is a part of, so as he's evolving,
Hmm.
that's what he becomes, is the Redeemer. He's the Reclaimer, the Redeemer, the Forerunner, the
Ah.
everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And what's cool about that is like there's even achievements within the game as you advance and you're playing. You can rank up through all of those things. Like you even at one point become mythic. So, but
Awesome.
yeah, yeah. So Forerunner is kind of a catch-all term.
Nice.
And the coolest thing about the gun is if you look at it, it is like a combination of every Halo pistol from all of their games, including like a Destiny fried version on top of that.
Yeah.
So the iconic pistol, even in the lore, they talk about the caliber of the bullet that's in the gun, which is from Halo.
Hmm.
But this gun was intended for a very large person to use it, and the caliber of the bullet inside is so massive, it might as well be in a sniper, and it just can, insta kill anything, which was true in Halo, but not so much anymore. So, yeah,
Awesome.
it's a big old beastly gun.
Nice.
Um,
So then the
next
next one
up,
is BXR.
yeah, next one up won't be so. I won't do this to everyone else. So the next one is the BXR 55 Battler. The flavor text is treasured competition piece from a bygone era. So this one is another Halo game reference. It's
Hmm.
the BR/55, aka battle rifle.
Hmm.
Um, this is the gun that's used in like all the competitive game modes in Halo. So like if you're familiar with like Team SWAT or just a lot of the competitive modes in Halo's multiplayer games revolve around having a battle rifle, which is a great rifle. It's funny because it has a burst fire, and so if you're familiar with rifles, they have a burst fire, so it's like a 3 bullet burst.
Hmm.
The battle rifle does the same thing.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, so the battle rifle, inconsistently over the years, the early pulse rifles looked similar to what a battle rifle in Destiny or in Halo looks like.
Hmm.
And so they leaned into this one. They put the scope that would have been on a battle rifle, and the ammo counter is on there too. So the 36 bullets in a battle rifle is plain and visible right there when you're aiming down sights.
Cool.
I forgot to say the coolest thing about the Forerunner gun is obviously when you get a kill, you get a frag grenade.
Oh yeah, yeah, and you can do the grenade hops with it, right?
Totally forgot about that. Sorry. So
That
yes,
is a very cool nod.
Yes. In Halo, you could get an extra height clearance if you threw a grenade down and jumped slightly after, so that when it blew up, it would launch you a little bit higher. It's almost like
Nice.
triple jumping. Um, okay. So the the Gajunker, the Junker ornament, which is the Galahorn ornament. So the
Hmm.
Junker ornament. This one is cool because it's another Halo game reference, but it's a play on the Spanker uh, rocket launcher
The
from Halo.
spanker.
Yeah, it's called the Spanker, and it's basically a Spartan rocket launcher. They
Nice.
affectionately called the Spanker because it spanks all your enemies into submission.
Nice.
Um, what's cool about this one is if you look at the ornament on it, it looks exactly like the very first rocket launcher that Master Chief ever held, which was the Spanker rocket launcher. It even has the little arrow. It's the same green. It's got the blocky top,
Hmm.
um, and then where it says Galahorn on the rocket launcher, I forget what it says, but it's something funny like I don't know, caution something something.
Okay.
But aesthetically, it looks very similar to the Master Chief rocket launcher.
Nice.
Yeah. Um, the next one, another Halo one. So we're going to be
Hmm.
drowning in Halo. The next one is Retraced Path. This one's cool too. Like, if you read the lore on all of these items, you'll find out they're kind of like little synopsises of all the different games from the past and just a little bit of what they're about.
Hmm.
So, Retrace Path flavor text is an early prototype that brought the potential for future trace rifles into sharper focus. So this one's a little weird because if you consider it in the world of Destiny and you say, okay, how is this a prototype that brought the potential for future trace rifles? Hmm. So this gun in Halo is called the Focus Rifle.
Hmm.
It's a Covenant focus rifle. It's a directed energy weapon used by the Covenant, which is comprised of, the elites, the grunts, the brutes, the prophets, all when they were the enemies that you face in the Halo game. And so if you look at the gun, it looks almost exactly like a focus beam rifle.
Cool. This is
Um,
this is a really exciting gun because it's actually the first legendary trace rifle as well.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. My wife and I called it the fricassee gun because you could fry your enemies. But it never did like a lot of damage. It's just you
Uh-huh.
had to sit there and hold the laser onto your enemy for almost the entire mag before they would die. But it was funny and because like trying to use it, it would jump around. And so it's very similar to how a trace rifle works.
Yeah.
So how does that fit in the Destiny universe? Who knows? I mean, it's like now you have a semi explanation as to why we have trace rifles,
Yep.
which came about in Destiny 2.
Took a while.
So yeah, took a while. The next one is inspired Eidolon,
Hmm.
which Eidolon means ghost, so that's pretty apparent. And it's a sparrow that looks exactly like the ghost, which is a vehicle in Halo. Um, the flavor text to it is there's writing here described a dead thing which has returned. Perhaps it refers to you. so
That's good.
so that's Zer saying that, and it's basically like saying, it's a ghost, or you're a ghost, or your ghost is a ghost. Who knows?
Yeah.
Um, Halo game nicknamed the Ghost by the UNSC. It's a Covenant standard reconnaissance and rapid attack vehicle. So obviously, why not turn it into a Sparrow?
Yeah.
It's really cool looking too. I mean,
I
that
just
one,
hope that they make all sparrows go as fast as that always on time. Because no matter how cool a sparrow looks, I'm not taking it off.
yeah, yeah. Man, the Ghost in Halo. Just real quick, the Ghost in Halo is like the best way to get. splatter kills,
Oh yeah.
which is just hitting enemies, just splattering them all over the place. So another Halo reference. It's like the color green is everywhere.
I mean, Halo is their big game. Like that's where they have to make all their references.
Yeah. So the next one is the same. It's called the Equator Shell,
Hmm.
and the flavor text is for ghosts who have journeyed across the ring. So ring world. Halo game has the Halo ring world, aka the Halo array,
Hmm.
which is a network of 7 ring-shaped artificial worlds created by the Forerunners in order to kill all sentient life within its range. So we already talked about that basically when I went on
Okay.
my long rant. But yeah, so the ghost has this this electric blue ring around him, and this one is not Halo.
No.
This one is the they're ornaments, right? Or
Yeah,
are they actual?
they're universal ornaments.
Yeah, universal ornaments. So the universal ornaments that you obtain from playing Xur's,
To Dares of Eternity.
yeah, Dares of Eternity game, are from the game Marathon. And we've talked about these when we were talking about, Easter eggs in the last episode.
Hmm.
So the Marathon game has its main protagonist, the cyborg. Uh, and so it's funny because the name of these are like the hints. So the Demos born is it means born on Mars, which is like the Halo, main protagonist. So it's talking about because in Mars, it's like where the whole marathon game kind of takes place, and
Uh-huh.
you end up on a ship with the crazy rampant AI. Later, obviously, that's the meat and potatoes of that game, but like it's centered around the lore is centered around like the events that happen on Mars.
As
Uh,
we've talked about with Mida.
yeah, Mida Multitool. There you go. Which is the faction that was like Future War Cult, but in the marathon game, and they were
Mm.
crazy, and they were from Mars. Um, so the other two in in those skins are the enemy types. Like one is the Forians, and the other one is the Sphitish. So there's the enemy types, which is the four, and then there's the enemy types, which are called the Sphits. They're the two of the enemies you fight as the marathon man in the game. Um, yeah. So,
Okay. So bring
and
us
last,
to your last one, to Tiger Man.
yeah. So the last one is Tiger Man. And it's called the ornament is called Thy Fearful Symmetry, which I really like this one for other reasons. So Tiger Man was so I'll just read it quick. Tiger Man, a canceled playable race, humorously described as noble, wise, and bestial. He's of a notably feline appearance. Um, it was the main feature in Bungie's 2013 April Fool's joke, which led up to the Destiny game. Um, Basically, they were messing around with us because we didn't know anything about the Destiny game, and so they did this whole goofy video about the Tiger Man, which was a canceled enemy race. And a lot of people think that, Shax is a Tiger Man under his helmet.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
that's what we're gonna talk about in a second.
so, so Thy Fearful Symmetry is from a poem, which is a very beautiful poem. If you ever get the urge to go look it up, I've read it many, many times. And in fact, Destiny has other items which have lines from that poem, which is also neat. Um, the tiger poem is where this quote originates from. It's "The Tiger" by William Blake,
Hmm.
which is about a symbolic tiger which represents the fierce force within the human soul. Um, Basically, it's kind of neat because as you go through the poem, it's basically describing. the human viewing the tiger as this, this amazing beast, but then he realizes that as he's going through the poem, he realizes there's so much symmetry within himself that he sees in the tiger as
Mm-hmm.
he's describing the tiger in the poem. It's really beautiful because he can kind of see the he's like welling up within inside himself. He's feeling the same thing he's seeing within the tiger that he's describing.
Mm.
So it's fitting that they would call that the the, the tiger man.
You're kind of
The
roboting,
tiger man.
and it just sounds like you're saying Tiger
Um,
Man over and over.
about guardians in our game.
Bummer. Uh, okay, he's back.
Yep, I'm back. Sorry,
Okay, oh good.
something weird happened. I dropped my phone and then like the computer went crazy.
As computers do when you drop your phone.
I don't get it. I dropped my phone near my computer and it just decided to freak out.
So, like you mentioned, Shax being a Tiger Man is one of my favorite theories, and so I got an image queued up for this as well. I figured I could follow here, where we see early concept for who is obviously Lord Saladin on the right, obviously the speaker on the left, and then obviously Lord Shax in the center. And the main detail about Lord Shax here is that his fingers are like nailed, like clawed, like look at Saladin's hands and look at Shax's hands as well you can. And even the speaker to a lesser extent, because he doesn't have him like out as well, but Shax has come to like a point. Like he's got fucking tiger claws,
He
and
sure
he
does.
doesn't take off his fucking helmet, and he's
Yeah.
a tiger man, and that's why he's so much taller than everyone else, and that's why when he was saying, "Oh, big caliber bullets must be for a titan," he caught himself.
Yeah.
He was gonna say for
Yeah.
for one of my species.
Yeah. That's funny.
I
I never
forgot
noticed
who.
that concept art having pointing fingers, claws like. That's pretty
Yeah,
cool.
it's one of those like things that I love to bring up whenever it feels appropriate to bring it up, and I forgot who responded, and I'd have to like dig for this, so I probably would never find it. But I posted about it on Twitter, and one of the writers just replied, "No," and I was like, "I'm not listening to your lies, man."
So I'll wrap all this up in a tight little bow because I know it was a long-winded lore card thread that had to do with, and I didn't go into every specific, and I might have got a few things wrong, but I just wanted to kind of give y'all where the heck all this stuff comes from.
Mm-hmm.
So those are the references that we had to game. There are other ones that come up in the game, and so we can talk about those, but we'll be talking about it anyway because in Zer's Eternity Realm there are other little mysteries and fun things like the skulls from Halo. You can go find them. They don't do anything,
Are
but you can go,
there? That's
yeah, you
neat.
can go find the little skulls laid about. In Halo, you find skulls and they unlock achievements, and
Mm-hmm.
as well as they make the game harder to play. So if you don't know this, in Halo, when you find a skull, it unlocks achievement, but you can activate the skull to make any of the past levels you played through more difficult.
Uh huh.
And so they have an achievement called Lasso, which is Legendary All Skulls On. It means having every skull from in the game and then playing all of the missions on Lasso, Legendary All Skulls On. And it's like the greatest achievement you can get. And it basically is okay, you want to make this game harder? Here you go. This is the hardest you can make this game. And so when
That's
you
cool.
play through the entire game, you get the bragging rights and you unlock the achievement. And everybody seeks that whenever time a new Halo game comes out. Everybody wants to do it on Lasso.
All right.
Yep.
So that's really cool, and so that's a lot of the items, and because of our technical difficulties in the beginning, we're gonna, I don't know, we're kind of like, I usually look at the time recorded, but because of the issues we had at the start, now it's all skewed. I know we're kind of coming
Yeah.
up on our time.
I think we got about 20 minutes.
Yeah. And I just don't know if we can fit in the Grasp of Avarice stuff. We'd have to like kind
Yeah.
of rush it. But so I do want to talk about it. So Grasp of Avarice is the new dungeon in the game, and I haven't gotten to play it yet, and I'm upset about not having gotten the chance to play it yet because it does look really fun, and it is very heavy in the pirate themes. It is very heavy in the Goonies inspiration, like that is apparent. Um, and one of the awesome things about it is there are 11 collectible items, 11 bottles that you can find, like messages in a bottle,
Yeah.
throughout the dungeon. And each of them gives you a little audio take from the person you're going there to basically find, Wilhelm 7. And he catalogs his experience as a pirate in a fire team of three, going into what we know as the loot cave across somewhere over 40 days because at the end he lost count. And so, throughout it, you get a lot of themes of like curses and stuff. And so there's some interesting little details. And so I guess the best way to start is just with the first bottle, which reads, or he speaks, "It's the end of the day, too, and I'm thinking the damn vandal outsmarted us when we chased him into the loot cave. I was sure he'd lead us right to the source of the treasure, but it looks just like a regular cave. I haven't told the team we're lost, but Bismarck's getting suspicious. That ghost is too clever for his own good. Not ready to turn back, though. There's treasure here. There's got to be." And so right off the bat, you already have like an annoyance between the main character of this story, Wilhelm, and his ghost, Bismarck. And there's two other guardians whose names are Agadir and Pershing. And I don't know if their ghost names have been mentioned. If they are, I missed them.
Yeah, it seemed new to me because I was looking for him.
Yeah, yeah. Everyone here is definitely new because it's like an entirely isolated story. Although now we might learn about the exploits of Wilhelm and his pirate themed fire team. But so
Yeah.
basically, they go into the loot cave. He says it's a regular cave, but he's like going deep into the loot cave, and it's not really a regular cave, um, in my opinion, because it opens up, right? Like it has like big things and it's got the pirate skull and there's like a
Yep.
whole lot of things as he goes deeper, and it seems like it's almost as he goes deeper, he finds more and more and more, and it's like it keeps him going deeper as if the
Yeah.
cave itself wants him to go in. Like he's not the
It's like bringing him into the pit of yeah,
yeah, like he's
of just being
there's a
trying to get
curse,
lost.
but he's not the
Yeah.
originator of the curse.
Right.
And so, bottle two says it's day four and still nothing. No gold plated engrams, no exotic drops, just more fallen in hive and those and their stupid Mas Ultimas and scavenger suits. I heard Bismarck talking to Pershing and Agadir when they thought I was asleep. He wants to turn back, but we can't yet. Not yet. The exotics are just around the next corner. I can smell them. And so he's getting in deep. You're going in deeper. You go into like man-made structures, and that's what I mean. Like you go into man-made structures. It's not a cave, which just kind of feels weird that he's calling it a cave, I guess. But
Yeah.
whatever. Bottle three. It's the end of the day six, and we did it. We found the source of the loot, broke into a chamber, and it's wall-to-wall engrams piled to the ceiling. Top tier loot as far as the eye can see. We're gonna go as deep as we can. There must even be more. There must be even more ahead. We'll figure out how to split it up later. Should be easy with so much of it. And there's a little note I added here. When you do find bottle three, you find it next to the corpse of someone holding a shovel and surrounded by engrams, like a
Yeah.
room filled with engrams. So it doesn't. makes sense for someone to have died during the recording of Bottle 3, but it seems like they did make it back at some point to Bottle 3 when they died. Bottle 4, Day 10. We're deep in the cave system now, and each cavern's richer than the last. Deciding who gets what is tougher than I thought. Pershing shot Agadir over a mid-tier pulse rifle he had already had. Agadir's ghost came out hollering, and Pershing damn near shot him too before I stepped in. There are more engrams here than a body could ever need, but nobody wants to part with their cut. So, and this is kind of what I'm saying about the curse is there, but Wilhelm is not the originator of the curse. They are already being affected by it. They're becoming more and more greedy as they go deeper and deeper, and it almost feels like the cave is alive and it's like trying to pull you in. It's like, yes, we have loot, come in, and it makes me wonder, like Destiny 1, when everyone was shooting into the cave, was it trying to get us into the cave?
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe. And then so like this explores where that loot cave actually went.
Mm-hmm. So like we as he's exploring deeper, you find more bottles and we explore deeper, which leads to bottle 5. It's day 14 and Pershing's dead permanently. Agadir went golden gun out of nowhere and shot his ghost. Pershing tried to throw up a barrier after, didn't do him any good without his light. He died standing there like an idiot. Bismarck says we should go back to the surface, but I'll be damned if I'm going to leave this loot for those greedy cryptarchs. At least there's a silver lining. Pershing had some nice gear. It's mine now. So, Wilhelm doesn't even care that his friend just got murdered in cold blood by his other friend. They're going deeper.
He's just like, yeah, I know. It's just almost like he's being pulled or whatever
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
without his own will.
Yeah.
Like he,
And sorry, go on.
no, no, that's it.
Okay. And then within 4 days, we get bottle 6, day 18. The previous bottle is day 14. So within 4 days, I got Agadir hauling the loot like a pack mule, using a sled I made out of an old fallen armor. Problem is, the deeper we go, the better engrams I find. The sled's fit to burst, but Agadir's about to drop. I better be careful not to overwork him. He got much weaker after I killed his ghost.
Hmm.
And bottle 7. Day 22, and Agadir's gone. I caught him trying to steal from me. Take what's mine. I pushed him down a sinkhole about 30 meters and dropped a grenade down after him. Ha. It's quiet as a tomb now, just me and all this loot. And Bismarck. He says we should leave. Says there's a curse. Says this place is changing me. I know he wants to come back later with some cryptarchs and clean this place out. Heh, I'm not falling for his tricks. So now, 22 days in, and Bismarck is finally realizing something's like psychologically going on with Wilhelm.
Yeah. Yeah.
8 days later from the last bottle, day 30, Bismarck won't come out, so I've been hauling engrams alone. I dropped one and chased it down a crack in the cave floor, right into another loot cave, even richer than the first. Hey, Pershing, I just pulled a god roll of the shotgun you wanted. You hear me? Where'd you get off to? Ah, to the victor go the spoilers, and nobody's more spoiled than me. And so, like, he doesn't even remember that. Well, actually, no. He killed Agadir. Agadir killed Pershing. So he doesn't even remember that Agadir already killed Pershing. But oh well. Another 8 day jump. Day 38, and I finally got rid of Bismarck. I knew he'd be plotting something, so I laid a trap for him. I shot myself. Ha, right in the meaty part of my leg, and when that little snoop compiled to see what the fuss was all about, blam. Heh, I put one right through his little beady iris. I probably should have let him fix my leg first. It'll be fine. And so this is where it gets a little
Yeah. This is
confusing, I
dark.
want to say.
Yeah.
But we'll get to that because we're like right here at the end. 2 days later, day 40. I forgot how much a body can bleed without a ghost to stop it. Doesn't matter though. Ain't nothing more loot can't fix. Just one more cave and a couple more exotics just a little further. And then the final bottle, bottle 11, day can't count. My legs burning. I No time to stop. Almost to the center. All the loot in the galaxy right here. Oh, just for me now. It's mine. It's all mine. And then when you finally do find Wilhelm Seven's corpse, they're an exo. And you break into his like little pod that he's living in, and he says, what's that? I hear you sneaking around. You're here to take what's mine. Don't you touch nothing. It's all mine."
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah.
like, well, exos don't bleed.
Yeah. So like it's all in his head as he was going down the loot cave, and it almost feels like he had like split personality, killed his ghost, his own ghost, and then, it was too late because he was just driven mad from the cave, sucking him down further and
That's
further.
that's an interesting point. It was all in his head. So
Yeah.
he's an exo who is under this curse, shot himself in the leg, and the curse is making him think, "Oh, my leg is bleeding. I'm in so much pain."
Uh-huh.
I
Yeah.
like that thought. I really
Yeah.
do like that thought.
So that's what I kind of gleaned from it when we read through it, and I mean, I don't know. There's probably somebody out there that has a better explanation,
Hmm.
but it's funny. Okay, so here's another funny thing: is like I was looking up these names, like Bismarck and Pershing, and I was trying to find if they had any connection, and I didn't really find a lot, but there are some quotes and there are some pirate stories that use these names
Welcome.
out there on the internet. So if somebody out there wants to like do some research work and pull these names that they dropped in here in this lore to try to see
Hmm.
if they had any outside references, go for it because it seems like there are some.
And so there is one other thing I want to bring up about this dungeon, and that is the crystals that grow throughout the dungeon.
Oh,
So when you find Wilhelm, his body is like being like surged through with crystals,
yeah.
and uh in the encounter, the fallen shield encounter, I guess there's a mechanic where you have to pick up the burden of riches, which is picking up the engrams and deposit them into the crystals, which you have to do throughout the whole dungeon. You pick up burden of riches and deposit them into these
And the
crystals.
crystals, yeah.
But when you deposit it into the specific crystal, the in-game text says the icon of excess is filled with riches. So it's almost like, okay, so the crystals are icons of excess, and it's like, are these crystals like the resonators of the curse? Like they, right?
Yeah,
Like I don't exactly
yeah.
know what to think about it.
Something. And so like you're just trying to explain like a game mechanic into like the lore of it and why that's set up that way. But if you almost thought of it as being like the person who holds the burden of gathering up the material and then taking it to the crystal, what does the crystal glean from that? Even though the
Hmm.
crystal is partly responsible for making you do this in the first place.
Part of me wonders, like the farthest out there, like no chance in hell this could actually happen. Part of me wonders if we're eventually, after the saga of Light and Dark, are we going to get like sentient rock monsters as an enemy race that have like psychic abilities or some shit like that, right? And like
Well,
this is the precursor to them.
yeah.
Like
I
this is a
mean,
trap that they created for us.
yeah. I mean, historically, people have believed elements and crystals and all of that stuff was a part of a growing, living Earth
Yeah,
and everything.
exactly.
Yeah. So who knows? I mean, alchemy, right?
There you go.
Yeah.
And so I'm gonna post Mylan's video in chat now. Mylan's video really helped me get an understanding, and I'd also want to point out the Destiny Lore Vault on YouTube, which is where I didn't get these bottles myself. I made transcripts from their video of gathering the bottles this morning.
Yeah.
But so in Mylan's video, and I really want to give him a shout out for this, he I guess claims, I agree with it, but it's not proven unless someone from Bungie actually says so, right? Like he
Yeah.
claims that in our original Destiny 1 resurrection, we witness the creation of the loot cave. And I agree with it. So if you want to know how that claim came to be, you got to check out his video. And if you're listening, we're going to put it in the description of the show. I'm going to remember to put it in the description of the show. So you got to watch his video to find that out. Cause I was kind of like, no, like I was like blown away. I was like, no fucking way that
Oh,
like this tiny detail that like I'm positive someone at Bungie was like, oh yeah, we're gonna add this to the end, and it's because they were referencing this first thing we did in Destiny.
that's funny, because the loot cave was a product of Guardians, farming an easy exploit within the game, and
Yep.
they just sat there forever. So, if you're up on Destiny lore, you know that there was this place that you could go and shoot at a cave and just get riches
Hmm.
endlessly to spawn over and over and over by killing enemies that would just keep spawning there. And
Yeah.
it's been a humorous thing that they pull from constantly, about the loot cave. Like, remember the loot cave? This is
Yeah.
all, and it was even funnier because Bungie made fun of us for shooting in a cave and like spending hours to do that
They're like,
versus
that's what
just
you think
playing.
is fun.
Yeah, this is fun for you shooting in a cave. So it's been, and the loot cave has gone on to be included in other games that aren't Bungie games as a mockingly humorous thing that
I
other
remember
games.
I remember seeing like other like looter games.
Yeah.
Their articles would be like, "Did we just find the this
The-
game's loot cave?" And it's like, "Oh my god, like Destiny's just permeated all these games because it was so
Yeah.
viral to have
There's
this
one game,
thing."
I forget what it is. What was that game where they actually put a loot cave in the game and there were little engrams that popped out?
Did they?
And
I don't actually know that. That's awesome.
yeah, I forget what it was called. Somebody knows. They'll tell me, I'm sure. But
That
yeah,
is really awesome. I actually didn't know about that. I just know that
yeah.
other games had their loot caves.
Yeah, and so I wanted to say, like at the end of this, when you talked about the EXO and
Hmm.
how he was, like thinking of all of this as he's being led. So he's being sucked down by the cave, and so the bottles. First of all, the bottles are, a reference to like message in a bottle. You throw a
Hmm.
bottle in the ocean when you're
Hmm.
stranded on an island in hopes that somebody will see the message in the bottle and come save you. Yada yada yada. That's kind of what's happening here with the bottle references, and that's been a construct of like pirate stories and folklore and all that. So like, you find a message in a bottle, you find a map in a bottle, you go finding loot in the cave, and a map takes you to treasure and all that, right?
Yeah.
And the Goonies aspect of all of this is in the Goonies, you had this team of kids that go down into a hole, which was basically through a cave that was shaped like a skull, and they go on this grand adventure to finally come upon a pirate ship at the end that was, loaded with riches and all that stuff. And they found out that the pirate ship was full of dead pirates and skeletons and stuff. And so my point is the symbolic thing that they leave at the end of this is the dead exo
Hmm.
is the skeleton from pirate stories that's still alive.
Hmm.
And so they've used the skeleton that's still alive in pirate stories to show how the curse keeps you alive even though you're dead and you're there stuck with the riches. So like you go looking for the treasure and
Yeah.
eventually the treasure consumes you and then you're left stuck with the treasure, which is what is a construct of pirate lore. Just like Pirates of the Caribbean, when you
When
watch
you
the movie
take
or
that
read the
treasure,
book.
you become an undead pirate.
Exactly. So the treasure is creating you or creating the undead. And so it's funny because they use an exo, which is an exoskeleton.
Yeah.
So it's like an exo is the skeleton and he thought he was alive but probably wasn't and was just led into madness. And at the very last bit where the line he's like, I hear you sneaking around. You're
Yeah.
you're here to take what's mine. Don't you touch nothing. It's all mine. So it's like that. It's happened. It's a trope. It's happened in
Yeah.
other pirate stories where the skeleton's like, "Ah, you can't take my riches," or the pirate.
Goonies did something similar with One-Eyed Willie. His
Yeah,
skeleton wasn't alive, but it was a
right.
matter of like respecting him and being like, you can't take his treasure where like one of the kid was like, "Oh, hi Willie," and like had this moment with a dead
Yeah,
skeleton, and
yeah.
another kid behind him tried to take Willie's treasure, and he's like, "No,
Don't
that's
touch it. Yeah,
don't touch his." But
yeah.
then of
Because that's
course,
the curse.
yeah, and
Yeah,
that's the curse, but the curse was just the booby trap that he set up before he died.
yeah,
In the Goonies, because in the Goonies
yeah.
there's no actual curse. It's just a very crafty
Well, yeah,
pirate.
and so they take that one treasure from him, and then that opens the cave, which takes the ship out, and the beautiful ending to the movie or whatever.
Yeah,
But yeah,
yeah. Seeing
yeah.
the you know I gotta say this. You know what bothered me about the fucking Goonies, aside from the shit that was absolutely horrible about the Goonies?
What?
They had that deal with the pipes in the cave, and they were
Oh, that
like
was a cool
yanking
scene
on
though.
them, and it was like pulling
Yeah,
the fountain and shit. So people have been in those fucking caves.
making all that.
Yeah, they're like, "What's down that way?" We don't go down that way. But what's down there? I don't know. We don't go down that way. There's fucking pirate treasure down that way. You didn't go down that way? You saw
Yeah,
a fucking organ with finger
yeah.
bones for keys, and you didn't think maybe there's something back here. You just turn the fuck around.
I love that this whole story is like a cautionary tale for your insatiable need for loot as a
It does feel
guardian.
like a commentary on the player, right?
Yeah. Like you're playing the game, but you're missing the fun parts of the game by being just wrapped up in the massive amount of loot that you're trying to attain, the perfect roll, blah, blah, blah. Just, there are other ways to enjoy yourself, is all they're saying. You're going to drive yourself
Especially in the
mad.
loot cave.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
doesn't get more obvious than that.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, I
That
think
was a
that's
good
going to be
one.
our show for this week. That was a lot of fun. Coming back and getting to talk. It's one of my favorite things to do. I hope people like to listen to us talk, but I mean, even if it was just me and you talking, it would still be fun for me. So
Same here.
if you want to find more of us, you can find us on Twitter. We are spelt like it is down there at Loose Cannon Show. We basically only tweet updates, and also I try to retweet the Armory Defines lore cards, because so many happen that don't actually come on the show because the show's so spaced and the lore cards aren't as spaced. So I like to give them a shout out. If you're coming in late, you can find us anywhere podcasts are, and we also go up on YouTube if you want to watch along. If you want to see the images that were posted for Rhino's Armory Defined thread, we will also retweet that on the Loose Cannon Twitter. So you can find them there if you are listening and you are interested what the specifics look like. Bye, everybody. Oh, I don't. I'm gonna say bye.
Bye.
I was waiting for you to say bye. It's like, don't be rude, man.
Said it, but it cut out.